You know what I mean? Like if someone sends me something and I listen to it and it's not just like an omnisphere loop, that kind of bypasses all of that. Breaking an artist from the beginning is the best thing that you can do as a producer to get placements.
Let's be honest, you're not gonna find these videos anywhere else. Why? Because I make them. So it would really help me out if you subscribe. If you've already subscribed, what also really helps is if you like the video and leave a comment. It's hard in the era of clickbait videos on YouTube and negativity in the producer community, and I appreciate your support. Thank you so much. When does a producer need a manager?
I think it's the same time that any artist needs a manager, just when you start having having the ability to have someone else make an impact for you. Because a lot of the times, I mean, I've heard you talk about it a ton of times. It's like that whole, you really don't need a manager until they'll start coming to you because you have a big enough situation where there's something there. And it took me 10 years to get to that point. I think that, I just kind of self-sustained and did what I had to do. But I didn't really have the opportunities that were even warranted having a manager. Especially on the production side. So like producers don't obviously get the credit that they deserve, and they don't get the billings, they don't get the credits correctly all the time. So as that's starting to progress and get a little bit better with people crediting them better and doing that, I think that's opening up the doors more for producers to have a proper manager. But for me, especially, like, I'm an artist, I'm a producer, I have a lot going on. So it kind of helps me on all facets. But on the production side, I mean, I don't know where to start with, Seth does a really good job with getting like sample packs from us and different artists and, sending those out and making sure that he's doing all that type of thing. That's not something I really think about or have the time to do necessarily in my structure. So it just makes sense, but you kind of know, it's like, I can't handle all this and I need some help.
Yeah. So take us back to when you and Seth created that manager-client relationship. What was it that was going on in your career as a producer that Seth came and complimented, added, enhanced, etc.?
I think it was kind of just the right timing, really. I mean, the pandemic happened, obviously, and for me, I started doing a lot of EDM stuff. I kind of went through a little lull. When the pandemic started, I was like everybody else. I was just kind of bummed out. I didn't really know what are we going to do? I didn't have shows. I wasn't working. It's just like, it's kind of scary, you don't know before all the help and all the stuff that was going on. You're like, okay, I need to figure this out real quick. And what I found was I just started working. I just started creating and just going crazy on all different things. And when I took my head up, I was like, damn, I have all of this stuff and there's no way that I'm realistically going to be able to do all of these things by myself. And Seth was coming into the same thing with the pandemic. I mean, he had a completely different trajectory as well. And, it just kind of changed things I don't know if it's for the better yet or what, but, changed his path as well. And it was just the right timing for both of us. He wanted to kind of get more into the management side. I've known him for a very long time. It's a close friend of mine. I've been through just a bunch of stuff where things just didn't really work out. And I just wanted someone that was going to be kind of like on my team and want to kind of grow it from the start. And he was the right person for it.
I think one of the biggest synergies between Afterthought and I is just having someone that you can trust and feet on the ground in Los Angeles also. Mm-hmm. That's a huge thing, because I think as an artist, if you're established, and your home base is anywhere but one of these like music cities, it's good to have someone there.
Okay, Afterthought, where are you right now?
I'm in Pittsburgh. Okay. Yeah, my studio's in the Taylor Gang side of ID Labs. Like Edan is right above me. Yeah.
Cool. You're right there.
Yeah, but we're in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and someone asked if they were talking about Eric then, and yeah, that's the same guy, I believe. So
yeah,
it's a small scene, I think, in Pittsburgh, and just, I mean, the industry is small anyway, but especially when you're talking about whatever. Is Pittsburgh considered the Midwest, or is that the East Coast? It's the East Coast, right?
It's debatable.
It's debatable, but I think
culturally it's the Midwest. I think geographically it's the East Coast.
I think it's East Coast based. There might be a little bit of Midwest, but like as soon as you get to Ohio, things change. So Pittsburgh's different than Ohio. So to me, I think it's East Coast, but people will debate that all day.
Pittsburgh doesn't make any sense.
I don't think Ohio makes any sense either. I don't think
they make less sense for a lot of different reasons, but no shade to Ohio.
Well, Indiana is the Midwest, and I feel like I'm in the South when it's so culturally, the culture and the geography just don't line up. This question leads into the next question, so feel free to address what Tarzan is saying.
What's up, Tarzan? He's reached out to me a few times privately.
Okay. Oh, so you've already had this conversation.
Definitely has a crazy work ethic for sure.
So Z recently tweeted, and you retweeted him, Seth. Some artists believe they're a manager away from success. If I just had management, I would be in a much better place. And I feel like that is related to this question. And this is to both of you, actually. And that's the first part of the tweet. How do you respond to the mentality that a lot of producers and recording artists have, that they need a manager in order for their careers to take off?
You want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think it really depends on what skill level you're at. For instance, specifically with Tarzan, he had sent me a couple packs, and it just so happened that like the style of the records that he was making, like at the time, I had like an influx of that style, and some of the people who have been reaching out to me and sending me like that style of music I know in real life. So naturally I'm going to try to set plays up for people that I'm closer with and that are a part of my direct network. I think, in my management position with Afterthought and with Ricky, they needed a manager to start handling things that were coming in, right? My manager relationship with David is different. I believe in him. The beats that he makes are, I think David has lasting power as a producer. He's not disposable. Like, he's not just making the same sounding trap records every day. So my relationship with him is to get him off the ground from the beginning. So I'm not just reacting to business coming in. I'm proactive trying to get his music out there. So the thing is, it's almost like manager isn't even the right word. It's like him and I are creating a business together until I have to act as the manager that I do with Afterthought and with Ricky P. So I would say you just like a manager is good to bring on at any point if someone's going to go to war for you, essentially, if they believe in you. Like, that's how I am with David. That's how I am with Afterthought. That's how I am with Ricky. It's just they're all at different points in their career. So the responsibilities are different.
So you're effectively, in a way, doing artist development.
100%. 100%. I mean, David is teaching me things every day about music in that sense. And I'm certainly doing artist development with Afterthought, with your Ryan Haynes music, and with Ricky P's solo career that he's working on as well, And these are things that I'm still learning every day. Like, we teach each other things every day. I'm not the one with all of the answers. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're all learning and growing together. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, like I said, it took me 10 plus years to really actually need to have a manager. And back to what we were saying earlier, like at that point, I was doing everything kind of by myself, and I was managing other artists. So I was working with labels and they were just kind of handling everything, right? So hence I've got smarter, and I know to just check all of my stuff and be on top of my stuff and not letting labels do our stuff for us. But I just didn't have any real placements at the time. And then I started getting these, like I did the Wiz track and a track with Wi-Fi and some bigger artists. And I started working with a lot of bigger EDM labels in general, and doing more placements, working with bigger artists. And I just needed that extra line. I couldn't just do it all. And it didn't really look very professional at the end of the day either. Me always reaching out to represent myself. Like, it's cool, but it comes to a point where I think it's just looked at a little bit differently if you don't have proper representation as well. But back to that question, if you have a ton of beats, I don't think that necessarily means you need a manager at all. I think that
Agreed.
you just need something. It's a corny, like, cliche, but you just need something to manage. There has to be something there.
Yeah, the amount of records that you're making doesn't have like a relationship with the necessity for a manager, you know?
Yeah, I think the opportunity needs to be there more than anything before you have to worry about anything else.
Yeah, for instance, there's this guy who sends me 100 samples every week, and his work ethic is fire, and I've had like conversations with him about it, and I was like, dude, this is very cool what you're doing, but like, I'm not trying to dig through 100 samples a week. Could you just like pick out the 5 or 6 like coolest samples or like that best represent you or that week, that headspace that you were in, and send me those? Because I don't even look at them, to be completely honest with you. And I told him that, you know. So the correlation of like the numbers to representation is just, you know, it doesn't. I would rather a producer spend that time making 100 samples, researching like a new plugin or new sound design or a new VST or something to make the samples more interesting, rather than just have like 100 guitar piano loops. Like,
yeah, let me pick up on that, because you recently tweeted that you're always looking for songwriters and sample makers, and I've actually never said either of those things. And I get about 10 emails a day, you know, from people I don't know and I've never talked to, flooding me with samples. And I'm sure you have the same thing happen to you, Afterthought, as well. What's the best way for producers? Because now it seems like producers see making samples as a pathway to placements. And I feel like that's probably why a lot of them are sending their samples to me, because I have placements. I'm like, that's not really how it works, unfortunately. What for you, Afterthought and Seth, is the best way for producers to get their samples to strangers without being pushy, impersonal, disrespectful, or ineffective?
Build any type of relationship, anything, literally anything, before you just start sending samples. Like, it's not realistic. If you approach me as a human being first and just have any type of couth about building a relationship, my appreciation for that and the way I approach it will be way different than if you just start sending me links and emails and I know such and such and blah, 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 blah. Like, if you knew such and such well enough, they would be hitting me up, right? So I just look at everything prospectively, and if it makes sense, it makes sense. And if I just know you're just sending me stuff to spam me and you have no interest in anything beyond that, that's cool, but that's not how I operate.
I'll keep it 100% real also. Like, if you have something very special, if the music is there, like, that kind of bypasses all of that. You know what I mean? Like, if someone sends me something and I listen to it and it's not just like an Omnisphere loop that someone threw like a MIDI, whatever, you know, it's like you can tell the people that are going to war with themselves about their music and like figuring out the newest technology and the newest sounds and like are musical. You know what I mean? So relationships 100,000%, but like, if you're making something special, we're going to use it. You know what I mean? That's what everyone wants. Like,
that's why you're the manager and I'm the artist.
Right. but like, bro, if some random kid hits you and he has like Mario Luciano level samples, like,
I'm gonna be like,
the relationship we need. You know what I mean? Like, that cold time I've been waiting for. I need that. You know what I mean? So,
but it sounds like that's rare that you haven't really
super rare.
Yeah.
That's so a lot of I'm so confident in David, because he's like approaching that level of things, to the point where we can cold call people, and like we've hit like some of the biggest producers in the industry, and they're like, yo, these are the most fire samples we've gotten. Like,
and to go like Demoris Beats, I see this comment over here. I didn't even realize there's comments. But he says how to build a relationship if people don't respond to a simple hello. So that's the problem. It's usually not even a simple hello. It's just a link to something, or just some generic message with a link. If you say what up to me, like there's chances are that if I see it, that's the other thing. I don't see a lot of stuff. Like I'm not actively always checking my random IG inbox that's different than my normal one and stuff like that. I'm not always looking at that, and people get offended by that, but it's just not something that I'm always thinking about. But if you say, hey, what's up? I enjoy your production, or I'm looking to learn, or whatever, I'll chances are if I see it, I'll probably respond to it. If it's just like some generic thing, like I said, with a link, I'm probably not even going to listen to it. It could be the best. It could be Drake. It could be like the next Drake, and I wouldn't even know, because my brain has programmed me to not want to do that all the times and take that influx. And I've done it before, and I'll just sit here for like hours just listening to people's music and loops, and I'll be like, damn, I basically just wasted 4 hours of my life, and I could have been working on such and such. And it's not like the best mentality, but for me, my time is very valuable, and I'm just not on an ego way, just on I need to get stuff done,
in a reality way. Yeah. The other thing about, there's going to be rejection at every level of this, right? Like someone not responding to a simple hello, like that happens to me still. You know what I mean? I don't think it ever ends. So you have to be built for that's a part of the game. So if you're not good with rejection, you're not going to make it far in the music industry. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the whole T-Pain thing with his DMs? I mean, it's hard to get a hold of it. Something about T-Pain hasn't checked his DMs in how many years.
He didn't know about his, and I didn't know about that for like 6 months, but there's the secondary IG, the request box, where it's just requests that you have to click over there and see all these extra messages, and he didn't even know about it. And it's all these people, all these celebrities in his DM trying to get a hold of him when he doesn't even see him. There's like people bitter that he's not hitting him back.
Right.
Yeah, so it's happening at all levels. Before we jump into the next question, somebody, it was Bufo, he asked about placements that included samples. Do either of you have experience with making a sample-based beat and getting it placed, and what did you have to deal with, if anything?
I've only been in that situation like once or twice, and I honestly didn't even have to deal with that end. They went ahead and got them cleared.
They as in the label? Yeah,
the label and the distributor at the time, acting as the label even, handled that. So I'm trying to see.
Yeah, I mean, same. But did it affect? What was the impact on you? Did you lose publishing?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. I when I was doing all that stuff too, honestly, in all transparency, I just didn't know much. So I was just signing stuff more or less, and I was very naive with it. And luckily, they kind of looked out for me for the most part. But I was definitely giving up lots of equity and lots of percentage. And as far as the samples, they just ended up getting clearing for some back end percentage. I don't think that we were really affected about it too much. But I get to see people around here every day that it affects, and it's a whole ridiculous process. I mean, even down to just for an example, E is remastering some stuff, I believe, for Wiz, and just like the other day, he had a sample and he didn't remember where the sample came from, and he was like, the label is not going to be able to put this out if we don't figure out the sample and how to clear it. And I didn't even put into perspective. I mean, I know sample clearance, but it's like, damn, yeah, even if you don't even know where it's from and you can't find it, like you went through all these channels to try to figure out where it came from, and you can't even find it. And it's like, that's the reality. You have to dot your I's and cross your T's, because later down the line, you're going to have to pay for it. And you rather just get rejection now than the letter of, you owing down the line.
Yeah, then the producer actually has, or the person with the ownership of the copyright has like serious leverage and could just take 100% of the publishing, and that happens all the time, actually. And to answer the question just super briefly, if you're signed to a label, it does fall on the label, and they basically decide what the sample is worth versus like the song. So they set aside like a budget for the sample, and if they can get it cleared for that amount of money, then the song comes out, or it doesn't, or they decide not to put it out. I guess as an artist, you could tell the label like, hey, I'm down to put up this bread, whatever that exceeds their like budget for the sample, and you could make it happen if you wanted to, if they weren't down to put up like an extra $5 or $10,000 or something.
Yeah, or you can contact me and we will either do a replay or rework it. Just putting that out there. I'm gonna have to let Edan know that. But yeah, man, it's a crazy world. I'm going through that right now.
We also, like, on the other side too, producers don't really realize that it falls on. It's just like the same thing for verses. Like if you're an artist and you pay for a feature, and you pay the artist for the feature, that doesn't mean that is cleared. And me and Seth have had to learn that very, very in-depthly. But if you never know, the label can come in and say, hey, we don't like this song, or we're, not looking to release this. He has music coming out, whatever it may be, and they can just squash the song. So you could have paid the artist $10,000 and you have the verse, you own it, right? But you can't put it out. So it's the same thing as clearing samples. Like you might have to lose some equity, because then they get their people involved and you have to sign paperwork and do all that and give them what they deserve, right? Even if you're grossly outpaying what it should be, it is what it is.
So that's happened to you then?
Oh yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, if an artist if an artist is signed to a label, don't pay them cash for a feature.
Sure. I've gotten it very gently. Like we very lucky that the major labels that we were working with, we had really good relationships with people involved in it. So it worked out really well, but it could have went really, really bad. And
it was tense. It was still a tense situation.
Yeah, it wasn't a good situation. Independently, it's like, man, we really need to make sure we're doing this correctly, because this is major stuff. So it's a pretty wild process all the way around, from the artist to the producer to, even to the engineers and everybody else. It's just, you kind of have to make sure everything's in order, because at that level, everybody's kind of gunning for you, right? So this is what it is. Sledgen tells me all the time. He's like, sometimes for New Music Friday, I listen to all of the songs just to make sure I don't hear one of my samples in the songs. And for me, that's mind-blowing. To even have to think about that, that's just crazy. So, I hope to get to that point one day, but it just puts things in perspective that I've never even thought about.
Yeah. There's people in the chat are expressing some surprise. Okay, so let's go back to the Z tweet. The second part of the tweet is as follows. It says, not all managers are created equal, though. A manager can fuck up a career just as easily as they can create opportunities and nurture talent. Be patient. Have either of you seen managers actually hurt their clients' careers?
I've only heard about it. I haven't witnessed it Actually, I guess my experience as an artist, I had a bad experience with a manager for sure. Someone that kind of I grew with. We went to college together, and then we graduated and moved to the same city together. And he ended up managing, getting brought on to a situation that, like, for an artist that was much more established than I was, and I just kind of got put on the back burner. So that was kind of a shitty situation.
I've seen a ton of artists get just destroyed by managers, and in the long run, it was so not correct to begin with, and the managers were always kind of not doing things the right way to begin with. So at the end of the day, everything was kind of null and void regardless. But just the embarrassment almost, and like the extra BS that was going on that would be inherited by a label or a new manager or whatever, it scared people away. And I've seen a lot of people get screwed by managers.
Yeah, one of the biggest problems I've seen with management is a manager that's prohibitive in the sense of not allowing artists to release music because we have a bigger plan, not allowing artists to do features because we're better than that, not allowing artists to work with producers because we don't trust them yet. And it just ends up amounting to the artist being shelved, but not by a label, by a manager. What are some red flags that you think we should be looking out for if a manager approaches us and offers to manage us?
I'll say this right off the bat, and I'm very passionate about this. And Seth, that's another reason that I personally really trust Seth as my management, is because just from the beginning, we had the conversation, and it's, yes, there has to be something in place where when we bring money in, there's some sort of agreement, right? But we just kind of walked into it as, hey, we both have things going on that we can contribute to each other. So we don't have to have this super formal, crazy thing. Let's just, work together and see how it goes, and not have to do this super formal, on paper, wild thing. And for me, I've seen in the past, people that are kind of sketchy don't want to do that type of thing. They just want to come in and say, hey, sign this, and I want this, I want that. And it usually turns out to be a lot more than you should be giving away, or you should be doing in the beginning, especially in a small scene like in Pittsburgh. I see a lot of these artists, these new managers are come in and they'll say, hey, sign this, I'm going to get 50% of your stuff and blah, blah, blah. And they don't even have any content or any platform yet to even have that percentage for. So to me, the first red flag is if they're coming in asking for something, then that's the first red flag. It should be like a collaboration partnership if it's at the ground level. And it should be trusted enough that there's something in place and that you're going to take care of each other. But if there's nothing there yet, you shouldn't be asking me for something, because that means that you think that I have more than I do. And I'd rather be level with someone than above or below.
Yeah. Also, don't let a manager change the direction of your sound. Just like make the music you want to make, because there's situations I've been in. Like David makes a very specific type of instrumental. He can do a lot of things, but the things that he's most passionate about is kind of like, boom bap records, and then his trap stuff is like kind of like alternative, like the Dreamville, like Saba camp type situation going on. And I've been in like a ton of rooms out here because the game is oversaturated with like these trap records, right? With these regular trap records. And I've been in a ton of rooms where it would be like super valuable to have records like that on hand. But I'm always like, hey, David, if you're not inspired to do your thing today, like maybe you should just cook up. Cause he can do that in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Shit like that. So, but I'll never be like, we need this now. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah.
Yeah.
Don't just follow the opportunity, essentially.
The other big red flag too is that if your manager is in more pictures and dressed flyer than you and is always the attention guy, that's another huge red flag. I see all these people that become managers that they just want to be the artist, more or less. Like they want to be that guy, and they feel like that's their way of doing that. And it's got to be the most humiliating thing when you have someone representing you that's just a clown, that just acts like a clown, and everybody else can see through it and sees it. And it's like, you don't want that either. You don't really want the Ari. You know what I mean? Like, you don't actually want that unless you're Drake or you're Kanye or you're somebody that is at that stature. Beyond that, people don't really like that. I mean, you have to be firm and rough, but you don't have to be an asshole. So I think that's the other big red flag for me is like, what are your reasons for being here? Are they the right reasons, or are you just trying to do something cool,
Yeah. And I've, on the flip side of that, I've seen managers go through hell with their clients.
For sure.
So here's a question for you, Seth. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt like you've cared more about the artist or producer's success more so than what they cared about for themselves?
Not with my guys ever. You know what I mean? If anything, like I'm on the receiving end of like, yo, we need to get this done now. from all my guys. Like I wake up to 5 text messages from Afterthought every day. Just like, did you do this? Did we do that? Do we need to do this? What do we need to do today? Okay.
That's facts, dude.
And then,
Oh, so you manage each other.
right. Yeah. He manages me to manage him.
Amazing.
And for Ricky, that man lives and breathes the studio. Like I haven't actually, I went just down to Melrose with him the other day and realized that I haven't been in an environment with him outside of the music studio since July of 2019. So there's that. And David is just like, his work ethic is also inspiring to me. So if anything, like I'm getting pushed and, I'm getting pushed. Yeah.
For me too, I'm on the East Coast, right? So he's on the West Coast. So in the morning, it's like I put all my thoughts together. Okay, we need to do this for the day. Just checking up, and that's just me naturally. So yeah, it sucks for him because he has to like wake up to it, and I'm like, damn, I just spurted out all this.
It's cool. I figure out how to like protect my energy in the morning, things like that. But everyone that I work with is super serious about what they do. Even like tonight, like David just hit me the other day and he was like, hey, we need to sit down and like figure out the strategy for this year. Because last year we did some cool shit. We actually just opened a studio in LA, but he's like, to get to where we're trying to go, we need to work harder and smarter than we've ever worked before. So, these are things that we're all working on together all the time. So,
okay, and I looked this up, and apparently Pennsylvania is considered the Northeast or the Mid-Atlantic.
Well, you got to think Philly's in Pennsylvania, right? And everybody looks at Philly as the Northeast, so it's the same state. So you can't really, it's not that big a state. It's 4 hours you get from corner to corner. So
I never heard of the Mid-Atlantic region, but
4 hours?
From
You're getting from Pittsburgh to Philly in 4 hours, my guy?
Oh, yeah. What?
That's not safe.
Philly, 4 hours, that's easy.
All right.
That's easy. Turnpike all day.
Let's change the subject so you don't incriminate yourself. Here's an open-ended question for both of you. What should producers be doing in 2021 to build their brands and careers?
Just work. Just get outside and get going. We had a whole year and a half of time to make excuses, and all of the excuses that you made and all of the, goals that you had in your head and all of the things that you said you were going to do once everything got back to normal, just do it. Just go out there and do it. That's the number one thing.
Yeah. I think for me, it's like, there's different, it's situational based on your personality. So whatever you're doing, make it true to you. Like for instance, Afterthought just started like a vlog, where he's talking about his experiences on tour. All of that is generating interest in everything else that he's doing. DJ Payne, you are doing this. You know what I mean? This is generating interest, building trust in the community. Just a second. And sorry, got distracted. But there's enough technology and opportunity online that I think depending on what your personality type is, there's a technology for you to exploit and bring attention to your brand. So like Twitch, Discord, Instagram Live, Triller, TikTok, just find the one that works best for you and your personality. And
you're saying it's important for producers to show face and connect on a human level with an audience.
Yeah, I think so. But I also know producers that don't do that and just like kept their head down and focused on the music and ended up in spectacular places. And to be honest, like, if I was my personality type, if I was someone making music, like that would be that would be like the best case scenario for me, obviously. I guess maybe for everyone is just totally focus on the music unless you have a passion for podcasting and spreading it, educating, and which I think you do. And I think Afterthought, you have a lot of fun with telling your stories. You have incredible stories worth being told. So like I said, just whatever you've experienced in life, put a magnifying glass on it. There's technology that you can take advantage of to tell your story and bring awareness to your brand.
Seth, how does being an artist and an engineer influence the way you operate as a manager?
I mean, I can pull up with my artist records to any studio and get the track done on demand. You know, I have the ability to take music to wherever I'm at and cut the record right then and there. You know, so as an artist, so that's the engineer side of it. Is just I can just get the job done, and as an artist, it just certainly helps. You know, I never reached where I wanted to reach as an artist, so I don't claim to be like, you know, the executive producer, artist development, like super guru. But I have, you know, I went hard as an artist for 10 plus years. So I have the artist experience. I know what it's like to be an artist. I know what I wanted from my engineers, from my managers, from my friends. So I just try to use that experience as best I can to create like the best energy in any room that I'm in, so we can get the best out of everyone in that room when the record's getting cut.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, being an engineer and managing producers is probably super dope for the producer, because if you're in a situation where there's an artist around, you can track the session. You can get a lot of stuff done. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Look, just to turn that up, we literally just got a studio space in downtown Hollywood. So that's you know, we're definitely taking full advantage of that situation. Not just pulling up to sessions, but trying to bring the energy to us as well.
Yeah,
that's dope.
That opens up your client base too, because I mean, engineers are definitely a coveted thing and are, you know, sought after. And if you're doing it at a certain level, that means that you're probably have some connections on that side too. So it's definitely not a bad thing. And the other thing is too, is like for me, Seth will be like, hey, this mix sucks. Like just straight up, you know what I mean? It's just like, hey, and point out all this stuff. And I mean, I can't really argue with it. I'm like, okay, cool. Like he obviously knows what he's talking about, and I'll look at it again and say, yeah, I need to make these adjustments. And if he was just a manager, like there's only so much that just a manager can do. So I think adapting and being able to have all different skill sets in that industry, there's nothing that could really hurt you on that side.
Hey, Afterthought, what are some of your favorite projects so far from the year? I know you've been doing a lot. You just dropped at least one solo track with collaborators, with two vocal performers. But what's the coolest thing so far that this year has brought?
I signed to a new agency, like for booking. That was really cool just because I really want to expand that side. But as far as like the projects that have come out, definitely the EDM tracks that I put out this year. I did one with G-Rex and Project Pat, one with Hydraulics and Wi-Fi's Funeral, one with Blunts and Blondes and Wiz Khalifa. And those really, they just meant a lot to me because it's the first time I did things kind of on my own. I've always had to collaborate with other people that I didn't even really necessarily want to collaborate with. I just happened to be with it and part of it. So this time I was able to kind of pick and choose what I wanted to do, and that was special to me. And just being able to release those on some bigger labels, that was a goal of mine. I set a goal and I said, hey, I really want to get these electronic records out on some good labels, and the labels that I wanted to get them on, we got them on. And they were big releases. So I'm super excited with those. But I have a ton of stuff on the Ryan Haynes side that's just all vocal stuff that I do, that we're just super duper excited about. And then I have a ton of Afterthought stuff coming out too. And we've just I think we have like 30 ready to go tracks on either side. And we're finally starting to put them out. So I just haven't been able to put music out for myself, right? So now we're finally doing that, and that's by far the most exciting thing for me. It's just not to be sitting on a bunch of music and feel like I'm wasting time.
Yeah, what advice can you give to producers to put together projects as artists? And, you know, whether it's singles, whether it's albums, a lot of them have a lot of music and then it's just not going anywhere because it's sitting on a hard drive.
I think that a a lot of producers just kind of make a ton of beats, and then you're right, they'll float them out there and maybe not really do even too much to get them out there, and then they'll just like, oh, okay, I'm going to make more, and they'll make more and more and more, and then forget about all the old ones, or they'll come outdated or whatever it may be. I think it's important for producers to just make their own brand as well, especially on the electronic side. Like, these guys are all producers. There's not really, they turn into DJs, but they're not really DJs. They're producers that make music. And that's how they're getting these shows, because they're artists. They're making music that is growing a fan base. It's not the 90s or the early 2000s where you can just be a super dope DJ and go get booked out. I mean, there's the Who Kids and people like that still get to go around and do that stuff. But then look at it realistically, it's the Carnages and the people like that are producers first and DJs second, that are really able to brand themselves correctly. So that, and pushing for, like I tweeted the other day, back to somebody on our thread, I Garrett Hunter, I work with him, another dude, Kyle Horrell, who goes by Cali. We collaborate a lot, and they produce. They don't do vocals. They don't do anything else. We like co-produce it, and I bill them on it. I credit them on the song, and I give them the artist, the artist stuff. So that's super important as well. To me, and I think that producers should definitely push for that more and be vocal about it.
So you're at about 2.7 million streams on Spotify. How? I'm sure that took a while. What led up to that impressive number of streams?
Just catalog, honestly. Just catalog. I think we looked at all streaming platforms, and shout out Pandora, because that's a huge part, but with like 100 million streams over DSPs, and it's just all catalog. It's just all catalog. It's just all the collaborative projects that I've done. It all just comes down to that. And then that on the DSPs algorithmically pushes you. So if you put new stuff out and you have all these listeners for the old stuff, it pushes it right to them. It's not as hard anymore. So if I put out something as Afterthought, the Ryan Haynes stuff, it's still tough. We don't have the base there. So you put something out, it doesn't do very well, and it shouldn't. On my side, all catalog. Just keep putting music out. Don't shelf it. Just figure out a way to put it out. Figure out a way to build catalog, because down the line too, if something does pop, now you have something for them to come back to and find, and it's not just a one-off,
Yeah, I have more questions. We got some questions coming in as well. What am I gonna say? Yeah, Afterthought. You did an interview recently that I saw a clip from, and you were talking about this concept of winning and how so many people say they want to win, but your comment was they don't necessarily even know what winning means to them. And Damon and I on the podcast talked to Tony Remidi recently, and she characterized success as simply doing what you love and making a living doing it. What is success to you, and how does that influence your day-to-day?
I think that's a great way to characterize it, is making a living doing what you love. But to me, I think it's just really appreciating what I have and meeting goals. I've learned to realistically set goals for myself and not just look at everybody else, because you can look at everybody's Instagram and you can look at everything else and you can cornishly say, oh, I'm not really feeding into that, but you probably are somewhere in your head. We're in an industry that's entertainment, right? You're probably stacking your success up against something. And there's that, that place you want to get to because you're stacking it up to this person did this, right? So, I think you just have to be realistic in that. And if you're happy, you're genuinely happy with how you're progressing and where you're at, that's success to me. That's straight up. If I can look myself in the mirror and be happy and be proud of myself, that's all the success I really, really deeply need. I mean, money is great. Success is, on the other side of being in the limelight and making a monetary gain from it, that's something that's important as well, but it's secondary to me at this point.
Here's a question from Billy Hoyle. He wants to know if you can speak on some benefits of working with lesser known, less established artists, and what would make you want to work with a less established artist? What are the characteristics that you look for in an artist that may not be big, but you still want to invest the time into creating a project with them?
The banner on BeatStars said we were going to talk about placement, so this is something that I've been thinking about. I think building and breaking an artist from the beginning is the best thing that you can do as a producer to get placements in the long run. You know, I think placements, if you're just playing the placement game, they're far and few between. If you don't have like a sample business that's thriving, and if you haven't broken an artist, it's tough to keep getting samples unless you have like a super poppin' A&R manager like that you have like access, like very good access to, but that's difficult to achieve unless you're already, you know, up there. But I think that if you, and the characteristics, I think was a part of the question, the characteristic of the artist. I think one of the biggest things is find an artist who records themselves in this day and age, because they can constantly work. They don't need to go to the studio. Also, that shows a level of discipline that they're not just like an artist waiting around for something to happen and writing raps in their bedroom. They're being proactive and getting the work done by any means necessary. People that don't flake on studio sessions, on opportunities. You know, everyone that I've seen that came from nothing and is now, that has a real shot at this, was driving a $900 to $1,200 car from like Riverside or the Inland Empire to make studio sessions in Los Angeles. So just kind of like the relentless pursuit is what is the characteristics I would look for in an artist. And also, like, if you like their music, of course. But that's baseline. Like, the music has to be there, and the work ethic and determination, I think, is the other thing. But if you can break an artist as a producer, you will get placements as a product of that. Like, a perfect example from Pittsburgh is Christo. You know, he helped break JID and Earth Gang and works with a super dope management company that was birthed in Pittsburgh and Atlanta. And, you know, he just went platinum from a song with like J. Cole and DaBaby because he broke the door down with JID. So you get in those rooms as a byproduct of breaking an artist.
Yeah. I think that's the most natural way to do it. You if you're with someone from the start, it's just like anything else. You kind of build it from the start. You grow with them. And Billy Hoyle, like, he was literally just here with jams and
Exactly.
he did in the studio and with Edan. And I think that's a really good example of, you know, Jams isn't a little artist. You know, he's you know, in the mid tier growing. So I think that he definitely has a base, but at the same time, Billy's growing with him, right? And he's providing us. I think that they're providing a sound for each other, and it fits really well. And when you find that, you never know. Like, that can blossom into the best work that you've ever done as a producer as well. So I think that push and also working with smaller artists. But what you said, Seth, is they have to be serious. There's so many people that come to me all the time. They're like, hey, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. And they just they have no clue. Like, I've been doing this for 15 years. If we're not on the same page at least a little bit, or you're not willing to learn or able to learn quick enough, it's really difficult, and people expect a lot. It's better not to even put your hands out to grab anybody unless you know that they're ready to be grabbed.
Yeah, you gotta want this with every fiber of your being. Like, I moved to Los Angeles 2 years ago, uprooted my life, and, you know, now I'm spending like the majority of my disposable income every month on a studio, just to have be in a solid location where people can pull up to and cook up. Like, you have to be willing to essentially risk everything to make this happen, you know, because I mean, the reason I know that this is my purpose is because I've been willing to do it for free for a decade, or even pay, you know what I mean? Like, when I was an artist, we were shooting real video. We had real budgets for real videos, and all of that was coming out of pocket. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I was.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing is I think that artists expect managers to like pay for everything too. I don't know how that gets misconstrued so easily, but I see that a lot. Like, they expect that that they're supposed to pay for stuff, and it's not how it works. And also Billy Hoyle, shout out Since the 80s. That's the management company that Seth was referring to with Christo. I actually work with them as well for tour management, production managing for Earth Gang. So they're super dope. But yeah, they just kicked the door down and just kept going. So that's a perfect example.
Yeah, facts. People think about just Wiz and Mac when they think about Pittsburgh, but since the 80s, since the 80s has been providing that inspiration.
Christo, Jay,
years.
Ardo, Metro Mall. I mean, the list will go on and on and on.